Well, let's talk about another sad story connected to our community, and that's the story of HIV/AIDS and the tremendous toll that it took on so many of the people here, and certainly, across the United States and the world. Maybe talk a little bit about those struggles and how we were able to make sure that they were getting the type of services that they needed at a time when everybody was so nervous about having anything to do with gay people, particularly gay people who had AIDS. And also, if you could talk a little bit about how it really brought the lesbian community together with the gay community, which hasn't always been easy in our community.
No, the gay community has been men here, women there. Back in the 50s, there was a period of time when men and women did get together and, did some political action, picketed for the rights of gay people. But for the most part, there was a separation. When AIDS came, it became very clear that gay men didn't really know how to take care of themselves in a nurturing kind of way. I don't mean to say that gay men are not nurturing. It's just that that's not what men do. That's what women do. So the women came back in to their relationships with men, and we had a lot of time together where we would help men who were struggling with the HIV. And at one point, it was a profoundly sad time in so many ways. Not only for those who were people that I knew who were dying and that we all knew, but because people were so onerous and poisonous. I remember Ken and I went to San Jose City Council to try and get something passed for HIV support and non-discrimination. And Ken was talking to the people on the city council, and this man in the back of the room said, well, you know what they ought to do with those people is they ought to put them on a concentration camp on an island someplace. And this was before Donald Trump. So they wanted to isolate us away because, after all, that's what it said in the Bible, that, gays were not human, they were bad people. And so we had to really struggle with them. The church group, some of them were wonderful. And certainly Mike Fox is a stunning example of that and always gave me courage and a willingness to keep struggling. But, it was very hard because families were split apart in the worst kind of ways. Lovers were split apart, brothers and sisters, friends, and people were colossally stupid. If I go to San Francisco, will I catch AIDS because somebody who's waiting on my table is HIV positive? Right. I think to myself, how do people get that stupid? It's really amazing to me how difficult it was to get people to think in a rational manner that this was an issue that really needed to be dealt with intelligence and thoughtfulness. But we had a lot of friends. We did a lot of work. We managed to move a lot of agenda. Then there was the wonderful Lyndon LaRouche, who decided that one of the things that we should be locked up is because we had something that was contagious. And then what was the other one? The other was, what was his first one?
For Dannemire, you're talking about 64?
Dannemire.
Yeah.
Oh, Dannemire.
No, there were the 3 AIDS quarantine initiatives.
Yeah,
in
all
the,
of them. That they wanted to quarantine gay men. And lesbians were not considered in those days. I remember when Jerry Falwell, one of our illustrious people, came to San Francisco and said something about, we've got to do something about those gays and lesbians. I remember feeling, oh my God, he finally realized there are lesbians in the world. Because it was always gay men. Always the bad people were gay men. So it was a mixed blessing, but we got to recognize. But there were really some pretty awful people, and a lot of people got very hurt in terms of working really hard and trying to move things along. So it was a hard time for people.
I mentioned we try to put them on everybody's tables if you didn't get them, but the 2 booklets, one on the history of HIV/AIDS in Santa Clara County, and then the struggle for LGBTQ equality, and some of those stories that Wiggsy is talking about are in those booklets.